how the lessons from the pandemic and public health and what that means now compared to what it meant 3 years ago, how is your church or your ministry incorporating that concept?
Um, well, I think everyone's a little bit more prepared for something like that, knowing the before, during, and after now we've experienced and lived that, right? Um, and my community, what I'm concerned about is it was already in such need of healthcare resources. Most of the people in my congregation do not have insurance. And also the mental health needs that my community is facing. So we were already in need of those resources. And then we went further in need, like the bottom dropped out. So we're digging up from that. And, I think looking for grants for mental health. I've been trying to get in touch with the National Alliance on Mental Illness, NAMI. And people want to do a lot of training for you. And like, we've been trained and we're well aware of the needs in our community. We need resources and we need people that are qualified to help deal with for instance, the domestic violence issues we have. Someone that's actually trained to do that kind of work with women. It's trauma work, right? So it's a very specific need. And the healthcare needs for women and children especially. And a lot of these laws that the state are passing affect people in these communities greatly. And while it may seem real issue oriented, like for example, abortion, but that hits women and their maternal, mortality rates for infants and mothers, where this is just like, okay, this isn't the issue for them, but decisions that are being made right now affect mortality rates, and they're rising in these communities, and it's tragic. So I don't know, what we're seeing is like, wow, we're still recovering. We're still needing to pull back. We can't even pull back to where we were before the pandemic, which was at a deficit. So I think looking for grants, looking for organizations that are recognizing this, to help pull in some infrastructure, some foundational work for these communities, because it gets pretty fatalistic, and then people just resign themselves to the fact that this is just not going to work for them.
Right. Yes. It definitely affects the fabric of, the vulnerability of the community you had before. And then now, like what you're saying, that sense of there is nothing to help me, I'm on my own. Is a desperate and just a terrible feeling. And for those of us wanting to serve these communities, and I, knowing both of you, you both have been extremely resourceful. You are, on the front lines and have been on the front lines whenever there's been a need, which for me personally is the beauty of our Christian faith is to walk among those that need us, and sometimes just using our support and our presence. But when we're dealing with pandemics where it exposes all of our weaknesses, and the issues like you mentioned just now, the mortality rates of among women of color, especially African American women, who have just given birth and who have high numbers of illness, and all these things that have gone unaddressed for years and now continue to rise. And so it just, again, everything that a community, that a society needs to really sustain its people, and not just survive, but to uplift people and to growing their gifts and their community. We're so lacking. We're so lacking in it. Do y'all, as far as your faith is concerned, and I know, we've all been tested over these last few years, and there have been times that I admit it's felt kind of like, just plugging those little holes in the wall that are just leaking, and just trying to figure out how we can sew together a patchwork of some sort of care for people. How has your faith transformed through this personally? And what would you say has been, the most, I guess, significant change in you through this period of suffering?
Well, I went to seminary with one idea of what my ministry might look like, and what the call to be a priest in the Episcopal Church might look like. It came out with, wow, my job might be to walk with people through the valley of shadow of death, to offer hope when it seems hopeless, to have a ministry of presence with, because the needs are so great, I cannot fix them. The needs are systemic, beyond my power and ability to address them. I can be an advocate, I can even be an activist. But until those that are actually have positions of power that can change and systems and legislation, these communities are often the last to be addressed. And my mission now is a lot more being with, rather than progressing, if you know what I mean. And the advocacy work is these voices need to be heard. So as a white woman, I have privileges, and as a woman who's been educated, I have privileges that my community doesn't have. But I can open doors for these voices. I can help mentor leaders that I see in our community, and help give them notice and recognize their own self-worth as beloved children of God, and not just loved by God, but instilled with the ability to speak for themselves and to be leaders in their own community and in the church. People like me need to mentor and raise up leaders and step aside.
That's a very powerful statement, really. I mean, it hits on just many levels, I think. And I think, during this time where people have had to make life and death decisions and have faced death on a regular basis, you have to dig deep and really kind of understand where our place, each one of us has a different role. So yes. And Pastor Rhonda?
I think for me, it's easy to see what's wrong. For me, anyway, I am a fixer. I was an engineer in my former vocation, and so I often see what's not working and what needs to be fixed. And one of the things, this time and this vocation, being an Episcopal priest, has opened my eyes and allowed me to help others see where God is present, even when the fan is being hit, even when it looks like everything is crumbling around our ears. How is God present? And how is God asking you to show others that God is present? And that has been the one thing I think that has helped sustain me as I've watched the folks in my congregation and the people in the broader community, my colleagues like you and Alyssa and other clergy colleagues, and even laity, and the ways that God is showing up in their lives, and they are using the gifts that the Spirit has bestowed on them to make a difference, even in the midst of everything falling apart. And even though it's not going perfectly and we're not getting the outcome we want, and all of those things, you know, where we bemoan what's happening. And there's been rejoicing and there's been resurrection.
Mhm.
And yes, there's been death too.
Mhm.
You know, some things have, you know, not just people, but we didn't lose any people, thank goodness. But,
Mhm.
you know, things have fallen by the wayside, but then there's something new,
Yeah.
you know, that has sprung up in the vacancy that was created by whatever the old thing was. And so my faith has been sustained. And I also see that people have hope. They really are holding on to, it will be better than this.
Mhm. Yeah, it's the premise. I mean, this is a perfect season that we're in. You know, after every Good Friday of death and betrayal and fear, there is Easter.
Mhm.
There is resurrection. There is restoration. There is healing and wholeness. And I think that is the hope we hold on to.
Mhm.
I believe it.
Mhm.
And I think that's our call as priests in the church, is to proclaim that, you know, the darkness is not darkness. The darkness is as light to God.
Mhm.
And to point that out, that is also still present and a real reality.
Yes, just wonderful wisdom from both of you. I wanted one last question I wanted to ask that really pertains to everything you're talking about, and is our investment in our youth. Our young generation today has gone through so much. They were born of 9/11. They're, you know, coming of age and all these, you know, the climate changes, the impact of that in their environments. And then this pandemic, this historic period, you know, that most generations have not endured. Um, they are our most ethnically diverse generation in this country. And there is such a divide between them and the elders that are the decision makers in their nation. So we're in an interesting time, I think, in our society of trying to come to terms with what that means and what this generation needs of those of us more seasoned people. As ministers and women, what would you say we should be focused on most acutely in working with and in addressing the needs of our young generations?
Well, I've been a campus minister for the 3 years of the pandemic. Okay. And one of the things that I try to focus on with the young adults that I am and was working with is helping them find their voice, creating a safe place where they could ask their questions and speak their truth, and also helping them consider that they may be the solution, that their ideas may be the solution. Now, the other side is that, you know, how do I get people now to listen to them when they come up with solutions? But they have to have the confidence and the courage to know. And, you know, I'm a pastor, so first of all, how much God loves them, and that everything that they are experiencing does not take anything away from the fact that they are loved by God. And there will be people that will try to convince them that's not true. There will be people that will try to convince them that it's the clothes you wear and all that other stuff that is more important than the fact that God loves you and the love you have for yourself. So speaking the truth to them is very important, so that they have the confidence and the courage and the voice to be who God is calling them to be. I see in the young adults that I deal with this deep desire to serve and to help fix what's broken in our world, to make sure that the seniors are okay, that they're fed, that they're cared for, that they're respected. And so just to open the doors and windows so they can fly and be their best selves, despite the mess that we've left for them.
I think our youth need to know that they matter. And they need to be treated in such a way. Our youth do not want us. Ron and I don't need to be cool. Okay. I mean, we are, but we don't need to be.
Yes.
but that's not what youth are looking for.
Right.
You know, anytime I see, and yes, things need to be relevant. Entertainment's a big part of our society. All of that is great, but all you have to do is be yourself, right? Be yourself with these youth. They are longing for connection and relationship. And that's why I'm a huge believer in being a mentor for youth. Most people that make it out of really hard circumstances had someone besides just a family member that believed in them.
Yep.
And you see potential in someone, and it's, you know, you got to hang in there for the long haul, because that potential is going to go up and down, and, you know, they're going to, you know, doubt themselves. So they're going to shoot themselves in the foot. You know, you've got to know that that's part of it. You know, sometimes you're taking a few steps forward, sometimes you're taking a whole lot of steps backwards, but in the end, you move, you progress. It's those that are apathetic, and the people that could be role models for them are apathetic. No movement is what stymies and kills our growth and our hope. But even moving forward or backward, something's happening.
That's right. Absolutely. That's a very good point. Yeah, I really see, I choose to see the opportunity in this moment that we're living. I choose to see, despite all the struggle, the suffering, the ongoing, you know, denial or ignorance that we sometimes put in front of ourselves. I choose to see the opportunity, because I think that there's so much untapped beauty in diversity, and this young generation represents that. And I think that it is a time for them to explore and discover what that is, develop a new path that was not there before. And so, yes, I definitely think that there's so much hope still in guiding our youth and loving them, and making sure they understand the power of love, and how much they are loved. So, well, thank you so much, pastors, for your time. I'm sorry I'm interrupting your retreat, but I'm really not sorry. I'm really not sorry. I
We'd be with you anytime, Maria.
I love what you've shared with us today. I know it will reach those that need to hear these words. You both are beautiful, amazing women, and your souls shine in everything that you do. And I'm honored to call you friends. So thank you for sharing this time with me, and continued blessings in all your good work.
Right.
Thank you.
And you
Thank
as well.
And you as well. Yes. Blessings. Yeah.